Hey everybody, my name is Beeeyeee and welcome to a new build. This one is sort of a continuation off of the Ma, sitting right here. The Ma started out as a very underpowered system. Basically, it could play computer games, and that was pretty much it. And I slowly upgraded one part at a time, and I very carefully planned this out. And now look at it. It's freaking 8 cores, 72,000 gigs of RAM, and like a 1080 and all this insane stuff on there. It's pretty freaking amazing, I gotta say, not to like toot my own horn or anything. But lots of you guys have been asking questions about that because you can build a budget system, but it might not be upgradable in the way that you want. So I'm gonna go through this list here and I'm gonna show you an updated version of the ultimate upgradable PC. Now I can't come up with a name for this, so you guys go ahead and leave some comments down below with some pretty cool names. Come on, let's do it. So when I started the Ma, I had a G3258, which was the Pentium 20th Anniversary Edition, which was a dual-core, overclockable processor. It was freaking awesome. So I got a Z97 board and I slapped this guy in it and it was awesome. So there are two kinds of processors you can go with for this one. This is the G4500, but there's also the G4400. The 4400 is not overclockable, though you could do it with the base clock method if you know what that is. If not, it's a little bit easier just to go with this guy. It's usually like $5 more, and it might be binned a little bit higher. I'm not entirely sure about that, but it'll be a lot easier overclocking. It also has Intel's 530 graphics instead of the 520, so that's a lot better. The processor is definitely not the best. You're going to want a quad core for any kind of real gaming and anything like that. But for a basic processor, this guy is going to do actually surprisingly well, especially for 70 bucks. 70 bucks. It's going to do amazing. So keep in mind here, I'm going to be doing a mini ITX system, which is a smaller system, typically not as upgradable because it doesn't have as many expansion slots and things like that. And I'm also just using the parts that are at my disposal. So not everything on this list is going to go into the build. Just because I don't have a whole ton of money, I'm just using the parts that I have around me. But this build is going to be fairly similar for a little bit cheaper than what my parts cost. So next up, and what is going to be most controversial about this build, is the Z170 Asus Pro Gaming ITX board. Now, thing to note, if you're going to overclock, which I highly recommend, especially if you're using the G4500, is to get a Z170 board. Now, the Z means that it is overclockable. You can overclock with this motherboard, and that is a really good thing. Now, this one has a pretty subdued color scheme, some very light accents with the red. You can easily peel off those stickers, and everything is good to go. Now, one thing to note about this is, as you can see here, we do have 4 SATA ports, which is really nice. We have an 8-pin power plug, which is really good for overclocking. Not to mention USB 3.0 headers, lots of fan headers for a mini ITX board, some good sound, and plenty, let me see if I can get a better picture of that, plenty of USB ports. Now, this is a plague for cheaper motherboards, is the USB port configuration here. You could always use a hub, but it's not as cool. Another cool thing about this is you get an M.2 slot on the back of the board, so you can have even better upgradable components down the line. And with the case that we have, it actually fits perfectly. It's super easy to upgrade as well. This particular board also has built-in Wi-Fi, which is really nice. Now, this is a little bit higher end of a board. This is going to cost pretty much over double what the CPU costs, which is kind of ridiculous, but at the same time, it's going to give you some good performance, especially later down the line when we're upgrading. You don't want to put a 6700K in a board that's not good. You want to make sure they have good VRM heat sinks and power delivery, especially with an 8-pin plug instead of a 4-pin plug for the CPU. Also keep in mind, because this is a mini ITX board, we only get 2 memory slots and 1 graphics card PCI slot. I'll get into that a little bit more later. So that's the motherboard. And again, I want to stress this is an overkill part for our CPU especially, but at the same time, it's going to be way better down the line, and it's a pain to upgrade the motherboard. Now, for that reason that we have 2 memory slots, I'm going to get a single stick of 8 gig memory, the highest speed I can get without getting overpriced. This is 2666, which is pretty good. Typically the speed doesn't matter whatsoever, but the speed is going to matter if you're going to use the integrated graphics, and that is a huge thing. The reason we're getting one stick instead of dual channel memory is because we have those 2 slots, and we have the chance to upgrade to 16 gigs later on. Now, there's really no benefit on a Z170 platform to have more than 16 gigs. I mean, even when you're rendering video on a 6700K, you're barely going to be scraping that like 15 gig mark. Seriously, barely. And that's if you're running a lot of stuff in the background as well. Now for storage, we do have a WD 1TB blue hard drive. This is a 7200 RPM drive, 3.5 inch. $50 for 1 terabyte, not bad at all. And later on, we're going to upgrade to an SSD, which is going to improve the performance so much, guys, so much. Another option you can have for this, and this will make it a little bit simpler so you don't have to transfer operating systems or anything, is to grab something like this. This is an SSD. This is a 525 gig from Crucial, $125. That's not bad at all. And what that's going to do is that's going to give you plenty of space to store all of your basic games that you play, as well as your operating system and applications and stuff like that. And you can easily just add in another hard drive and start putting your games on there without any hassle whatsoever. You don't have to transfer the operating system or anything like that. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Now for the case, I gotta give it to Fantex here, man. I love Fantex. They always give such good products for a good price, and they don't exactly cheap out on anything except for really the thickness of the steel, which doesn't really matter unless you're going to be standing on your case. This is a mini ITX case, and it has a big window on the side, as you can see there. Got a massive 200mm fan in the front, super quiet, by the way. This has a super upgradable infrastructure jigger. It's freaking awesome. It's a really great case. It also comes in white and gray, I believe, but I highly recommend this case, especially for just $70. That's as much as the CPU. That's freaking awesome, especially for a case this good. And finally, the power supply. Now this is the Corsair CXM 550 watt. The reason I chose this one is not only because I have it on hand, also it has completely black cables. It's not the worst power supply in the world. I definitely would upgrade it later on down the line when you have a 6700K or something like that. But it is made by Corsair, which means it's not the cheapest thing around, but it is their lowest end model. So keep that in mind. It's not going to be the permanent power supply that you should keep using. It doesn't have the best voltage regulators and anything like that, but it does come with the necessary power cables, such as a 24-pin. It's got a couple SATA and a Molex, as well as a PCIe, which you can use for a graphics card. You can check out my unboxing of that up in the corner up there. But for $60, it's a really good power supply. So that's the list, and it all totals up at under $500. That is not bad. Not bad whatsoever. Also, keep in mind, you can buy Windows from places like Kingwin or Reddit's Microsoft Software Swap. That's where I always get it. It's like $20. Not bad at all. Easy pause. Easy pause. Easy sauce. Now, there are a few things to note. The CPU does come with a stock heatsink, so you're not going to need a CPU cooler right off the bat. And I can say from already building the system, it's right down here, that it does stay cool enough. And I haven't overclocked it yet, but it's definitely staying within the 50 and 60 degree mark, so it's perfectly fine with that stock cooler for the beginning. The only problem is it's kind of loud. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will answer them in the next part. But I just want to explain, guys, this whole build is going to be several parts long. We're going to be upgrading this thing together as we go. This is a perfect time to upgrade because not only is Z170 out and going strong, but the next Kaby Lake chips from Intel are going to be coming out soon, and they should be released for the Z170 boards. They should be backwards compatible. Even though there is going to be Z270 boards, this is a good option. So tune in next time, guys, to find out the benchmarks and everything like that, the whole build. Just let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next video.